Hello, hello. You're listening to Of All the Places podcast. My name is John Wick, and you are?
Katie.
Over my right shoulder, sitting on top of the richest hill on earth, is our man Ben, making us sound good. All right. Katie, what's happening today?
Oh my gosh, so much is happening. We're having like our first real guest, our first real episode that isn't just us being us.
I know we're growing up.
We're growing up. First real episode. We've got Christy Hays.
We've got a doozy for people.
This is like such a banger of a first guest episode.
Yeah. Christy's one of those people that I've kept an eye on. We don't really cross paths a whole lot in our lives, but I've kept an eye on her and she's doing some awesome stuff all the time. So I'm excited to get some of that out of her.
She's crushing it. Yeah. Her and her husband, Ben, one of my first interactions with Christy is that she came up to me and she goes, people keep getting us confused because we're Christy and Ben and you're Katie and Ben and everybody's confused because we're all musicians. And that's a huge compliment because I just think they're the coolest people in the world. And she's so interesting and she continually does so much for this community. And I'm so curious as to how she wound up here because she is just like the community member from the gods.
Right.
She's crushing it.
One of the first ones to come here and just be like killing it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Let's do this.
I'm so stoked.
Let's get into it.
Let's go.
Of all the places, of all the places, of all the places, why here, why here, of all the places.
Oh my God.
This is karaoke later on too.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I only do 90s country for karaoke.
That works.
Okay.
We can work with that. Christy, what is your karaoke song?
Well, I really love to do The Bluest Eyes in Texas. That's a 90s karaoke. Well, it's not a well-known. Restless Heart is the band. Mm-hmm. And they were actually a Nashville supergroup. They were side players, and they had this band called Restless Heart. I highly recommend that you go online and you look up Restless Heart. And you listen to The Bluest Eyes in Texas.
Okay. See, mine's the Humpty Dance. So
my
I'm just a
God.
different genre.
It's way different. But I respect that.
That's all I got.
Do you wear the nose?
I wish.
Wait, we need to upgrade your karaoke.
For sure. Next time we go out.
Yeah.
Wait, tomorrow's Saturday. We're fine.
Oh God, I can't do it.
Thanks so much for coming. You are a guinea pig.
Yes, I am so glad to be here.
Our first official grown-up episode.
Okay.
So
It's
buckle
the real
up.
deal.
I am grown up.
Yeah.
So I've been told.
It's the worst, isn't it?
I know. I'd like to go back in time, please.
Yeah. Take a little trip down memory lane. Well, that's what we're gonna do, though. We got to figure out why you're here
Oh, okay.
in the world. Like, why are you in this place? How did you wind up in
Here.
Butte, America?
Good
So
question.
where are you from? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a really small farm town in Illinois, in central Illinois, like 3 hours south of Chicago. I lived there until I was graduated high school. Then I went to college in Southern Illinois, and then I moved to Alaska directly after college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Where about?
I lived in Haines, Alaska, which is coastal. It's like north of Juneau. So roadless, kind of. There's a road to Canada.
Is that the drop-off point for the marine ferry? Does that sound right?
It does go to Haines, yeah.
Okay.
Occasionally. It ends kind of in Skagway. So if you take the Marine Highway, you can get to Haines.
That's a
on the
big
Marine
leap
Highway.
from small town Illinois up that way. How did that happen?
Well, I studied forestry in college, and I worked for the Forest Service for a while, and then I got assigned to Ketchikan on the Tongass National Forest. And I didn't take the job because it was consumptive forestry, so I would have been like clear cutting the rainforest. And I was super idealistic, and definitely a conservationist when I graduated college, and I didn't want to clear cut. So I took a job instead being a river guide in a bald eagle preserve, which is in Haines.
Yeah.
So I worked in like outdoor stuff, like naturalist stuff until I was 27. And then I left Alaska and pursued music.
Have you always played and written songs like your whole life?
Yeah, since I was 14.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't start performing until I was probably 18, 20. And I was so afraid of performing that I really didn't start performing until I was in my later 20s. I mean, I am talking like stage fright that was like, could not function. Crippling.
How did you know you were good at it?
I didn't.
When do you feel like when did that like turn for you? Because I feel like to be, like a touring musician and somebody who plays, you have to like have some grasp on like, I am good at this. I can do this.
Sure,
Like,
yeah.
When did that page turn for you?
Well, I lived, so remote and so isolated in the bulk of my 20s, and I was always an artist, and I had this other side that I have a very scientific brain, and I loved the science aspect of, the things that I was doing, but I really felt called to be an artist, and I also felt like I was really isolated, and I'm pretty impulsive and very adventurous, and I was like, I'm just gonna move to Memphis.
From Alaska?
From this town of 2,000 people in Alaska. I'm like, I'm going to move to Memphis now.
Just because.
Well, I wanted to pursue music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to go out and just like try to be a songwriter. And
Just out of the blue like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've kind of had this pull of creativity and songwriting.
yeah,
And you're just like, screw it.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
That's a ballsy
Well,
move.
I kind of was just like, well, this will be the rest of my life. I'll just be kind of working in this, which hindsight, like it would have been fine if I did that for the rest of my life. It's a great job and it's cool. And I still really love aspects of, naturalist work and forestry, biology. But I just was like, what if I never do this? If I never try this, then I could be so sad and be an old lady and full of regrets.
Yeah. It's a full send from Alaska to Memphis.
Yeah, which was a major culture shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's intense.
I only lived in Memphis for 6 months, and then I moved to Nashville, and I lived in Nashville for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you like living in Nashville?
Yeah, at that time, Nashville was totally different than it is now. So we're talking, I moved in 2007. So it was a really good education into the music business.
Yeah.
Kind of dropping into Nashville because it's so heavy industry.
Yeah.
So I felt like the 2 years that I spent there, I got a really good education of industry. Mm-hmm. Was it my kind of town? No, it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be a pop singer or a pop country star. Or, I have a very vague genre anyway of my music. And so it's, I went to South by Southwest and visited Austin, and I was like, oh, this is way more my speed.
Yeah.
So I left and moved there in 2009.
To Austin.
And are all these jumps in this timeline, are you just throwing a dart at a map? Other than that's a music city. Do you know people there? Do you have ins? Or are you're literally picking up and just hoping?
I chose to move to Tennessee because it was a place that you could work in the music business and kind of get ins and stuff. And I did have some weird experiences in Nashville, almost successes. I almost got, had my first record put out on Oh Boy Records, which is John Prine's label.
Nice.
But it was I could talk all day about experiences I've had with gross old men.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it random? No, my family lived 6 hours north of where I was living, and I had not been around them for almost 5 years. So I really wanted to move closer to my family. So that's kind of why I chose Tennessee. But I just didn't really love living in the Mid-South. The Mid-South is very conservative, very Bible belty, and Nashville is just so industry heavy, and it didn't feel as there was the creative scene that it felt like there was in Austin. They're very similar now. The scenes are very similar now. just because of how many people have both moved to these cities. But at the time, it was different. It wasn't like that. It was like Nashville was industry, and then Austin was like this way more like hippie, like,
Like the Yeehaw Portland.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, wasn't super random. I
Well,
guess, is
stars
my-
have to align in some form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The move to Texas was, I mean, kind of random. I have family in Texas. My dad's from Texas, but I have no connection.
You've got kind of this winding road as well.
Yeah.
That's like where I come from,
Yeah.
right?
You're from the Midwest, aren't you?
Midwest.
Yeah.
And then did a stint in Alaska.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Nikiski, right on the Kenai
Oh,
Peninsula.
yeah. Okay.
Just did my student teaching there.
Oh, great.
And then kind of came back. Montana. It's just Montana is home.
There's a lot of Alaska, Montana interchange, it seems.
Yeah, I feel like they're similar in that we're still, we might be isolated. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not easy to come in or out of Montana. Mm-hmm. And even though Alaska is like way up there, it's a pretty similar. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I love them both, though.
Yeah, me too.
So you're in Texas now?
I'm in Texas. We're in 2009 now.
Okay.
I'm in Texas. And then I end up living in Texas for the next like 13 years. And I loved living in Austin. You know, when I moved there, it was wonderful. I had I had wonderful creative community there. And I really just kind of, I guess, you know, over time blossomed as an artist and released a bunch of records and toured a lot and had a band and eventually released on a label, and I had management for a while, and you know, it was all going well.
Well, air quotes.
as you know, as it can in the music business.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, touring it can be a slog, and it doesn't make much money, and
Yep.
At this point, this is your full-time job. You're a musician at this point, right?
yeah, as years go by, you know, I had weird jobs, always tons of weird jobs, lots of food and beverage, and
That sounds like a lot of stories, though.
all sorts of, yeah.
What's like the weirdest side hustle you had?
So I used to go to this gentleman's house 4 days a week, and I would clean and cook and grocery shop for him for 2 hours of the day, and it paid in cash. And so I got handed down this job. I actually wrote a short story about this job from a friend at this breakfast place that I worked at. And she's like, you know, Jay needs some help. You should maybe take this job with Jay. It's like great money and it's like such low commitment. And I was like, okay. And I was worried it would be sexual or something.
Yeah.
But it was not. He was just like an extremely neurodivergent old man. He was agoraphobe.
Oh.
And another thing I could talk about all day, but it was a very strange job. But I kept it for like 4 years.
Well, I mean, if the money's good and it's
Yeah.
not like, it's weird, but it's not like weird in a predatory way.
No, not it was never like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but definitely weird.
That's a weird one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Any of those like weird cash under the table, just like helping somebody out to do like a weird task.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
yeah, I do too. I mean, I lived off of jobs like that. I did so many weird things, like wine repped for this Portuguese wine company where I'd go stand in the grocery store and like hand out shots of wine during the day.
Sounds legit.
That's awesome. That's great. I would love to
Haven't I
see
seen you
so
6 times?
weird.
Oh, yeah. Here's
I would
another
love
shot.
to
Yeah.
see you in the grocery store.
Yeah,
like in the
just, like,
I wish
handing-
the Butte Safeway had a little wine sampler.
Yeah.
It would really help me get through my shopping.
Time to make a change.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
I would, I wouldn't ID you. I would just hand you a sip of wine, like we were in
there's-
Europe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you're not going to ID people. And I
know,
feel
it
like
was
there's
so
probably
weird.
some like legality of it. If it's under a certain amount of,
Yeah,
like the ounces per, like the percentage of alcohol.
Right.
I mean, they're giving people that at church. So
I can't get drunk.
you can't get drunk off like a church amount of wine.
Right.
Yeah. There you go. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was also a secret shopper for a while.
That's
You ever heard about that?
Yeah.
That was a weird
What's
one.
a secret shopper?
You get hired by these companies to go do things like test drive a car, and then you have to fill out this report of your experience, like test driving this car.
Oh, so you're like testing the like employees in the business. It's like undercover boss,
It's
but undercover.
super weird. Yeah.
Shopper.
You have to lie a lot because,
Yeah.
like, I'm not buying an Acura.
No.
I don't have any money.
Did at the end of that gig or each gig, did you have to like identify as, or did you just walk out the door?
No,
and
you
that's
never
that?
tell them.
Okay,
You never tell them.
that feels
It's part of the whole deal.
icky.
Oh, yeah, it is. I couldn't do it. I did it for like a couple months, and I'm like,
It's like a sting operation.
yeah.
Oy.
And then you got to like say everything they messed up on, and like, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Not my thing. I'm no narc, you guys.
No. No.
Nor should you.
No. Okay. So you're in Austin.
Yeah,
You're
I'm in
playing
Austin.
music.
Playing music, living my life, like swimming every day.
Don't they have that great hot springs or natural springs in Austin?
Natural springs, yeah. They're always like 68 degrees to
It's a great
71
city.
degrees.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Is it 6th
Wonderful.
Street or 4th Street or something like
Yeah.
that?
6.
That's
So
where I
many
wanna
great
be.
neighborhoods, so much live music. So many creative people. Loved my neighborhood, but then it started to really turn a corner and drastically change in like 2013 is when it really started to.
How so?
So tech came, and it was the beginning of a totally different city. When now it's a totally different city. So it was overrun by Dell and Oracle, and Tesla moved their headquarters there, and the
so
money just
basically-
was out of control. Like,
It was loved to death.
yeah.
Because it was a cool town when you got there, and then people started to find out.
Well, I think everyone says that, like about, my husband is from Austin. So he grew up there in the 80s and 90s. And that was a totally different, I was like a town of like 500,000 people. Now it's a town of like 2 million. And so you can say, oh, the 90s were the best time in Austin. But now there's just such a like obvious change in the wealth, which I think always can really change a town. Like look at Bozeman,
Yeah.
when the wealth really overtakes the community, you just can't like return,
Right.
And so I got to this place of thinking I'll never be able to be a homeowner here. And there's only so much, like I felt like I couldn't really truly be involved in my community because I was so priced out of it. And even being an artist in this community, I started to have this deep, like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a struggling artist in a community where you can't afford to exist? And which is kind of gross, to think like, okay, I have to now, what do I do? Like, do I go back to school to make a lot more money? I don't know. I was having like personal,
It's just a rat race, right?
Right.
You're just on a hamster wheel
yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And then you're just, you're getting older. I'm like in my mid 30s at this time thinking, well, I want to own a house. And I had been coming to Butte, Montana since 2006. Whenever I left Alaska, my very close friend, Wendy, bought a house here. And I came and spent like 4 months helping her work on this house in 2006. And I fell in love with Butte, and I just kept returning because I had traveled constantly. I was constantly touring in my mid to early 30s, like constantly on the road. But my markets were not up here, except in the summer. I would like do a Northwest market in the summer, but my markets were all in like the East and the Southeast and the Midwest and the South. But I just loved Butte. I was like obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's how I came to buy a house in Walkerville while still living in Austin.
When was this?
2015.
Okay.
And you met Ben in Austin?
No,
No.
I met Ben in Lafayette, Louisiana at a show that we shared the bill on.
That's amazing. But he's from Austin.
He's from Austin. He lived in Lafayette for 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was that? When did you two
We
meet?
met like 7 years ago, but we were both like involved in relationships, and we're friends, you know, like internet friends. Like, oh, I might come through Lafayette, you know, and you want to do a show. And then time went on, and like we were both out of relationships, and he went on a road trip in 2020 to Montana, and then he like never left.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that.
I think that happens here too.
Yeah,
Right?
what does that mean?
How you fell in love with Butte and Montana, I think that's a pretty common story. I can say the same, right?
Yeah.
When I drove through here on the way to Alaska, and I was just like, dang.
That's the first time I drove through here
beautiful.
too on the way to Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vibe here is my speed.
Yeah.
So
So
I get
it was Butte that you first
well,
drove-
I had a
you
friend in
lived in
Missoula.
Phillipsburg though. Did
Yeah,
you?
I had a friend in Missoula, so I dropped my dog off. He was dog sitting for me
Okay.
while I was up there. And then when I didn't get a job offer up there, I came back to Missoula and tried to figure things out, sent my resume all over the western half of the state. Because you should draw a vertical line on through Montana and just stay to the left of it, right, where the mountains are.
Right.
So that's where my resume went, and I ended up in Peaburg.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, another winding tale.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Our plumber who just did the work in our basement, he's like, "Where are you guys from?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're the tell." Did we say y'all? That's always our tell up here.
To say y'all. Yeah. Okay, so we have to backtrack because you bought a house in Walkerville while you were still living in Austin. What was your plan? Did you have a plan?
So I saw the house, the original house that I bought, which is now Dear Butte. And I was looking at another property. This was probably in 2012. I was
Okay.
looking at another property in Walkerville with a realtor. And this is when Walkerville property was like free.
Yeah.
So we have to put some context here. Like, I'm still like a starving musician, you know.
Was that part of the big appeal to like Butte?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, very much same.
I mean, the fact that I could like save some pennies and buy a house here, it was possible.
Yeah.
And it was so weird here that I'm like, I love it. I don't know why. It's so gross and weird, and like, I want to live here.
Yep.
we say those words all the time.
Yeah.
The exact same
But
words.
it's like you mean it with such love. It's
Yeah.
like I don't want to live somewhere that's all shiny and new and not
No,
weird.
Totally.
I want to live somewhere gross and
Yeah.
like strange.
I think the more that you travel too, the more you really appreciate Butte,
Oh yeah.
which I try to explain that to people that haven't traveled a lot that are from here. Or like, you know, it's so important how unique it is, and we should celebrate it, you know?
I love coming home
Yeah.
to Butte.
Me too.
It's like it never gets old. It's great to go. It's a great place to travel out of, but it never gets old coming home to Butte. And like the communities here.
Totally.
So you were looking at a house in Walkerville.
Yeah. And I saw this other house and I became immediately obsessed with it. Like obsessed. Like I felt this like deep draw to it. So much so that I went on the cadastral and I found the owner and I wrote him a letter. And I was
Was
like,
it like on the market?
no.
Okay.
But it was obviously like not lived in.
Right.
Like the grass was like this high and there was weird German film posters in the porch. And I was like, what?
this building has
place?
a story.
Yeah. And I'm like, I got to know. And so I wrote this guy, Edwin Daub, a letter. And I said, oh, this is who I am. This is super weird. I really like want to buy your house. Would you ever be interested in selling it or even showing it to me? And he wrote back, he was so nice. And he said, no, it's very sentimental. I would never sell this house. Blah, blah, blah. Very like professional letter, signed Edwin Daub, continuing lecturer at UC Berkeley. And I was like, oh, he's like, is he a writer? You know? Because I've always wanted to make the Writers in Residence program. And then I like Googled his name and I realized he's a well-known writer from Butte. And then we started this pen pal relationship that lasted like almost 5 years until he finally sold me the house.
You played the long game.
I played the long game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel like as somebody who like Edwin, who's a writer and like a creative person, knowing that it's going towards like a creative person and a creative project and this super cool nonprofit that like that's best case scenario for like your something that has sentimental value.
He loved it. Yeah,
Yeah.
He loved the concept of it, and he really wanted it to happen, and he wanted to see it to fruition with me. He ended up dying right before it got launched. Like he died unexpectedly.
Oh God.
I know, it's very sad, but
So that's the house of Dear Butte, right? Can you tell me where that idea came from and how it started?
so it was just a response to my need of quiet, like removed workspace as a working musician for so many years, and a songwriter. So I could never kind of escape my life because residencies were so expensive and so exclusive and so barf. The residency world to me is it commodifies art in a different way that puts elitism in everything. And I don't think that most creators are in an elite category. So my whole goal was to make a free residency space that removes elitism from art. And that's what we did.
How many people have you had?
We've had, like a lot now. I mean, we have one person a month, every month.
They're
And
monthly
going
stays.
on. Yep.
Okay.
Going on, we're on year 4 of that. So
That's cool.
what's that math?
Me and numbers.
48
Yeah.
around 40,
Yeah.
48 people, 12 months, 4 years.
And they all stay for free. They apply to stay, and they pay $25 to apply. So, yeah.
And what's the end goal?
The end goal for me is to have, in the beginning, it was just to offer this and see if people would be interested. And the interest is kind of off the charts. So we're running this nonprofit now that literally makes no profit. It's been a labor of love for me, for 4 or 5 years now. I started the nonprofit in 2018. And it's not a matter of does the model work or do people need this service. That's been proven over and over again. Now we're kind of in this place with me, my board, and myself of how do we make this, how do we make a tiny executive director salary for me to continue to do this work and the programming for the community, because the way that they pay back is they give programming to the community on a donation basis. So it's removing a lot of barriers to me of funding, which Butte definitely needs, meaning it doesn't cost you $25 to go to this workshop, or it doesn't cost you, whatever, like removing the monetary thing. And people say, well, why don't you just charge people to stay? And it's like that's
The whole idea.
it ruins the
Yeah, that's not the point.
Well, I'm starting to connect some dots, and tell me how off I am, but there seems to be this creativity in you, yet it's coming up against these walls of society that we live in, whether that's rent or an expensive city or those sort of things. And this Dear Butte nonprofit is kind of an answer, like an antidote to that. Do you think it's successful?
Yes, I do. I think it's much more successful than I anticipated. As far as the interest that we have, we get so many applicants each round. We're open right now for a application round. We're open only in June and January. Then we place 6 months at a time. So we have way more applicants that apply than we could ever place. To me, it feels really good to be filling this need for people. It's a response to my, I felt this deficit in my own art and my own existence of being so selfish with my pursuit of my success. And it's also an answer to that for me, because I lived unencumbered and uninhibited from any community almost. I had my community in Austin, but your community in Austin is your music community, which is almost like this feedback loop of like your friends are all doing the same thing. it's not these people trying to push envelopes. They're maybe pushing envelopes in art, but not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can get really tiresome and almost like, what am I doing? I'm not inspired by any of this. This is not interesting to me. And why am I so self-obsessed? Being an artist, you guys can maybe relate. It becomes like sometimes you feel like you're living in this self-obsession where because you're constantly promoting yourself, you're constantly talking about yourself, you're like, this is good. Do you want to hear it? And for me, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do this all the time, like this is gross. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I probably peeked out there.
No, you like instinctually did this. Like you like were singing loudly and you just moved back from the microphone. I mean, like it is a weird like crisis of conscience to be doing that all the time.
sure.
And it's so often I'm just like, I want to go live in Mexico and go like away forever because it's so much all the time. And I think when you're in those situations where your entire community is doing the exact same thing as you and you're just moving kind of at the same pace or slightly different paces and you're all trying to do the same thing. And like there's parts of that can be really beneficial because you've got people that are going through something similar to you. But then like everybody feels so singularly about it that it's really hard to like relate to other people that are even doing the same thing as you. That it's whack.
And there's that element of competition.
Oh yeah,
that exists too.
That never goes away.
Yeah,
no matter how hard which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but that never leaves. Like I feel like, and I'm not a visual artist, so I guess I don't know. But I feel like music has like, there's something about being a musician and the way the music industry operates and has operated that like sets you all up for that competition feeling. It's really hard to get away from.
for sure.
Like really hard.
Yeah.
Even just internally.
And it changed so drastically because you have to understand when I first started playing music, Facebook and Instagram were very tiny.
Yeah.
They weren't the identity. They weren't your identity as an artist. And now it's such that if you don't have an identity on these platforms and you aren't using these platforms, you aren't going to break through the freaking algorithm.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm curious how you like pre-Instagram versus post-Instagram or TikTok, especially in the music industry. TikTok's probably more important. How has it changed? Because I feel like
it didn't exist when I
feel like everything is so quick and so you need these little like song bites or lyric bites. So you only write your music to those little bites that might get played online. And that has to kind of crush a soul.
Well, I don't do it. This is the thing with me is like, I didn't live in that time. So I haven't, and then I kind of, my life shifted. So I'm not like, oh, I need to do this. I got to get on TikTok and this is a perfect example. I just went on tour on this release tour with this woman, Margot Silker, who's doing great. She's like all over freaking Rolling Stone right now. And she's 10 years younger than me. And she said one night on stage, Christy is so cool. She's pre-social media.
I know.
I've never felt so old.
Oh my God.
But her and her husband, who are 10 years younger than me, see me as this like weird enigma that lives in Butte, Montana. This like decent songwriter. They're fans of my music. That's why they took me on tour. But to them, it's like I am like kind of punk rock because I don't play the game. But let me tell you, it's not because I have like, I mean, I do have a conscious objection to that game, but I don't care, which is a problem. It's a problem for promoting your career, because it's so important.
It's so important. It's really hard to not let that drive your art. Like it's hard to be in it and be creating that kind of content. I mean, I do it. I make content for all kinds of businesses.
Sure.
Which honestly has helped.
That's how the world is now.
Doing that and doing it for more than just myself has helped.
Yeah.
My my mind being wrapped around all of it.
Sure, yeah.
But it's also still really difficult to not be like, is this gonna do well? Are people gonna like this? Or is this gonna be like, is this gonna go viral? Like, which is a ridiculous mindset.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of All the Places podcast with our special guest, Christy Hays.
Hey, John, can I tell you what's going on at the Covalite Theater?
The Covalite Theater in Uptown Butte, America?
The Covalite Theater in Uptown Butte, America. Butte, America's home for live music these days. We're loving it. We're vibing. They've got open mic every Tuesdays. It's like the cutest, funnest thing ever. I've been.
You know, we really needed the Covalite.
We super needed the
It's a
Covalite.
huge need for entertainment. It's an excellent venue, and I just love all of the stuff they got going on.
Our good friend, Madeline Hawthorne, will be coming on January 18th. And Butte local and podcast guest, Christy Hays, is going to be opening that show. Can't wait. And then Marley in the Pocket is this really fun, funky band from Helena. They're coming down on January 20th. It's like a stacked month.
Yeah. And see, this is what we need in Uptown Butte. We need the Covalite. We need the lights on. We need to get there and see all these phenomenal talents.
We're fans and you should be too. We'll see you at the Covalite.
Covalite it is. Let's go. Katie, when we work uptown, there's not a whole lot of places better than Metal's Sports Bar and Grill. Like lunch specials. Are you kidding me?
There's no, I mean, this is a hot take. There's nowhere better. I love Metals. Metals is a place you always go when you need to go eat in Butte.
You haven't stopped talking about the pot stickers tonight.
I haven't. I brought them up 3 separate times. The pot stickers are amazing.
And it's the anchor. It's an anchor in Uptown. It truly is. It brings people in. It's got killer sports bar vibes. But what I dig the most are the specials. Things like Korean food, Vietnamese food, and you guessed it, pot stickers.
It's everything I've had there is so good. Every time we have friends and family come visit, we take them to Metals.
And it's got a Butte vibe, which is cool. So
It's super cool.
Metal Sports Bar and Grill. We'll see you uptown. Of All the Places podcast is brought to you by 5518 Designs at 27 North Main Street in Uptown Butte, America. Katie, what are you wearing right now?
5518 Designs.
Of course you are, because it's the greatest store in Uptown Butte.
Yep.
With the comfiest hoodies.
The best hoodies.
They're made out of clouds.
I'm not joking. We sell those as our merch, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And we get so many compliments that they're the softest hoodies they've ever felt.
But they're also designed and printed, produced locally, and all of that fun stuff as well.
And they say it in the tag.
They also say something fun about sumo wrestling, right?
Yep. Not suitable for sumo wrestling.
Not suitable. So it's not a uniform.
No.
Just in the next time you're out sumo wrestling on the town.
Make sure to take off your shirt.
So thank you to 5518 Designs, 27 North Main Street, and find them online at shop5518.com.
But I mean, I think being pre-social media is so cool. But I'm on the tail.
Yeah.
I'm on the tail end.
Just this badass dinosaur.
But like, I didn't grow up with social media. It entered my life like late high school.
Yeah.
So that's still like, I can't imagine growing up
Right.
with it. Because
I feel so bad for kids today.
I don't know how they, like, I don't know how it,
My nieces, I think they're just messed up by it.
Yeah.
It's like so sad.
because I had a whole life before the internet. You know, I mean, we had the internet, but like, I was playing like solitaire. I don't know,
Yeah,
like,
totally.
and the,
The Minesweeper game?
yeah, like
about
the,
it,
yeah, you know, like we had a computer in our like house, one.
Yeah, with
You know,
dial up.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I do. We had a dial-up gateway computer.
Oh yeah, so do we. Yeah.
That noise is imprinted
Yeah.
in all of our minds.
But like, I can't. I feel like sometimes the people that grew up with it, like the new generation of like artists and musicians, maybe they have it a little bit easier because they're just used to putting themselves all over the internet. But also I think it's like influencing their brains in a way that is like not always great. But then it's like, well, I'm kind of jealous because they have no problem putting themselves all over the internet. And every time I post something, I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the internet. Like,
But they also have this deficit in real life.
yeah.
Like they're not operating with their friends in real life. Like they don't hang out with each other. Do you guys know this about high school kids?
It's wild.
They
Yeah.
don't we used to drive around and like you got your license, you're like, oh, I'm gonna drive around in my car.
All we
like
did
cruising
was
the
drive
streets.
around.
Yeah.
Cruising
They
the
don't
strip
do
is
that.
not
That
a
is
thing.
I mean, like my entire senior year of high school, I'm pretty sure I just drove around
I know.
like
I know.
aimlessly.
Same.
I'm like, what? Were we going anywhere?
Is that
No.
a reflection on you, maybe?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. But it was just the thing to do.
Right.
And then we'd meet up in the McDonald's parking lot.
That's where we met up.
And
we were a Taco Bell community.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
same.
We only had a McDonald's for a long time. And so
Did we grow up in the same town? I mean, this you
I
sound
don't-
exactly.
This is, and these are years apart. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's like, there was a lot of years where kids did the same thing
Yeah.
and they were spending time with each other.
Our parents did that. You know,
Well,
like
yeah.
my parents drove around in their car in my hometown.
Oh yeah, my mom drove all over the East Coast. I mean, she was putting on some miles, but she was just driving around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was the thing to do, but you
Yeah.
were always with your friends.
yeah.
And always like doing stuff with I had a phone, but it didn't even like have the internet on it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get on the internet. And I was like a late phone bloomer. Like my parents were like, you do not need the internet on your phone until you go to college and then like do whatever you want. But there was no need.
Yeah. I know.
We had a great time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about your favorite memory from childhood. What did that involve? Screwing around in your neighborhood. and,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
outside.
Those kinds of memories just aren't being created anymore.
No.
They're different. There's screens involved.
It's like vicarious living. And it's almost it's satiated so much that it's like, what is reality now? You know?
Yeah, that's.
I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm on TikTok. I go on TikTok. I'm there. I'm old and
The
I'm
rabbit
there.
hole.
And the most frightening thing is to come across like, okay, this was a thing that I just saw some of these and I thought it was satire. I was floored. It's these 12-year-olds doing Christmas hauls talking about like their parents are spending thousands of dollars. They're like, I got my 4th Lululemon Align tank and I got a $400 gift card to Sephora and I got to get that rare beauty. I'm like,
Oh, like stuff that they got for Christmas?
yeah, and they're like in their selfie camera with their ring light, holding it up, doing like the influencer hand, like rare beauty lip balm. They're like 12. They're 12 years. It is it's like so dystopian.
Yeah.
It's like that's how they're spending their time is bragging on the internet about how much money their parents spent on Christmas.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
I know.
So let's bring this topic back to you. Took a little left-hand turn.
Yeah.
But what you're doing in town creates that kind of interaction. Real life,
Yeah.
real people thinking
Community.
real thoughts.
Yeah.
Community.
Exactly.
That's why I moved to Butte, just so I could cultivate more real, better community. You know, I felt like I can afford to live here. It's so weird. Living in a place that is not like every other strip mall town, I really think is great for creatives. And I think that's why Butte has so many creatives, because the aesthetics here are conducive to creativity. You don't want super bland, every house is the same with the same like aged tree in the front yard and like, you know. No, that aesthetic is boring.
Yeah.
And I think so many artists are attracted to Butte because, I mean, I'm going on a tangent, but
it's true.
it's
though.
yeah, that's what I saw about community, you know, creating community here. It's like, why not here? This is,
And that's where I think the internet messes things up, because it's just the same monotony and the same ideas regurgitated over and over again.
Oh yeah, it's just a giant echo chamber.
Where this like authentic creativity doesn't happen anywhere but a place like Butte.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing about music and the freaking internet is its authenticity is like squelched. The algorithm doesn't like that. It's creepy.
It's super creepy.
So then what are we're getting fed like, you know, I found music by going to the CD store.
What was your first album? Do you remember?
that you
album. Tape. Oh, cassette.
It was cassettes.
I've heard of these things.
My sister and I shared a bedroom and we had a cassette player. She got Boyz II Men and Mariah Carey
Yes.
and Lisa Left Eye. What's the freaking Don't Go
TLC.
Chase?
TLC. Yeah.
we got a lot of that stuff. And then I got, well, we grew up like on like country and classic rock, 'cause my dad played in all those bands. But then when we found like, you know, the 90s R&B, we were hooked.
All over it.
Yeah. Those were our first cassettes. We shared everything at that time. We were still friends. But then we eventually had like a line down the bedroom, like a tape, like you can't cross it.
Sounds right.
There's I mean, there's a shift. There's something that occurs with sisters where you go
Yeah.
from being best friends to like
Teen years.
I'm
is the
chasing you
shift.
around the house with like the bottle of my like liquor that you drank and you weren't
Yeah.
supposed to.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna beat you with it.
Yeah.
Like that's
Hair pulling.
sisterhood. Yeah.
You get in those fights where you're kicking each other
Yeah.
really hard,
Yeah.
laying down, kicking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's like sisters all are the same. That is everybody I know that has a sister in like close
Love
age
that.
proximity. We're all
14
the
months
same.
apart, me and my sister.
We're 18
We're
months
like,
apart.
yeah, Irish
Yeah.
twins. So,
Yeah.
whew.
That's like you're the same age, but then like there's an older sister. Like I'm the older sister, so there's that. Like I'm the older sister. My sister's like, frick off.
Yeah.
You're not like you're hardly older.
You've like been the same size your whole life.
literally.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Same with
Now
my
she's
sister.
like a foot taller than
Yeah.
I am. I'm like, great. Awesome for me. Yeah. Sisters 90s R&B.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. That's a great age of music.
Yeah, that was fun. We really loved that. I used to also tape songs off the radio all the time.
Oh, cool.
Did you ever do that when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Make
Gosh, I even
mixtapes?
remember like the like plastic, the buttons were this big and they had to push them down with all your might
Yeah.
to like record things or play
Yeah.
things. And it was
The two at the
little
same
tackle
time.
box sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just wild. Now it just comes to us through the air.
I know.
It's wild.
The airwaves.
You're involved with KBMF now.
Speaking
Yep.
of airwaves.
Yeah.
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 Tell us about that. How did this come to be?
Well, I've been on the board for a couple years, the Butte America Foundation, which is the nonprofit that runs KBMF. And Daniel kind of expressed that he wanted to not be the general manager. And at the time, I didn't really think it would be something that I would want to do. But then I started to think about it some more. And now that I don't tour a bunch, I have like this major deficit in my income because my income was like all touring income. And I'm like, well, I could, I guess, start to tour again, but that makes me want to. So I was like, you know, this could be a great supplement to my income, and I feel like I have a lot to offer this position and some great changes I could bring to the station. And
Yeah.
so I went to Daniel and I was like, what do you think about me taking over your job? And he's like, what? Oh my God. And then it was like not even a discussion. He was like, how about in 2 months? You know, it was like, it was rolling.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's such a good fit.
Yeah, I think it's I'm kind of a month in now, so I'm not panicked all the time, which is a good feeling because the first month I was like totally panicked.
Do you even know how to run a station?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I've never
Well, we don't
run-
know how to podcast, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
There's so many little moving parts in running a radio station that I'm learning. And yeah, I mean it's the nuts and bolts are one thing, and that's what I've been spending so much time learning, but I'm really excited to get to the place where I can influence our programming and bring a lot of new folks on. You know, I
Yeah.
really want to expand our listenership and curate more, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I love KBMF and we go on, you know, to talk about our music and people have us on their shows and it's super fun. And Ben was on one of our friends' shows. We had some friends here recording, so we pulled it up. We were listening, and we were done. Like our friends all had the same sentiment of like, this is such a cool community radio. Like this is not normal for like the programming to even be as random and cool as it is, and to be so supportive of the community and community events. And I feel like that's very much. This is all in your wheelhouse, even if like
Sure.
you've never run a radio station before. Like KBMF is just an extension of you programming Dear Butte events
Totally.
and like working towards this greater community goal. But it's one of those weird Butte things that this is not common.
Yeah.
Like it's still like the fact that as many people listen as they do is rare
Yeah.
and cool.
Yeah.
And like the influence that it has over the community and like the accessibility for people, like it's just really cool.
I agree. I mean, the coolest thing about Butte is this deep sense of lawlessness that we have here, and also being so uncool for so long. And when you're not cool, the coolest things happen. Have you noticed this?
There's a freedom in it.
Yeah.
Huge freedom in not being cool, because people are not trying to keep some kind of status quo or make adjacent things that, people would want. I don't know. It's like people just do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And it makes the coolest things happen.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
I think that's why, so many creative people have moved here, especially in the last 5 years.
Sure.
I mean, we moved here in 2020. And I feel like after that, we felt like it exponentially grew in like the next 2 years.
Totally.
But it's like mostly all creative people or people who are interested in the arts, even if they're not like contributing to the arts, they're like a great patron of the arts, and want to give back to the community. Like the kind of people that are drawn to Butte are all so different, yet have this like common bond that's like, we want everybody to succeed. We want a thriving arts community. We want this community to grow in a positive way and not like the icky gentrify strip mall way.
Yeah.
Like the fact that this place has like no big box stores, that's wild. Like a community of this size, like
especially in a state of 1 million.
yeah.
We should have it all.
We should have it all. I mean, other towns of our size do have it all.
I know.
And we don't. And I think it's awesome. Like, it does. I think we're going to hopefully see a lot of local businesses fill those holes.
Yeah, I hope
as
so,
they're
too.
already starting to.
Yeah.
Christy, one of the things that I love to ask people, and just hearing to more of your background and story, how you've got this creative bone in your body, or multiple bones, because badassery.
I have a couple bones in my
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
So you've got this creative bone. You've got Dear Butte happening. You're playing a pretty major role in KBMF. And all of these are cool in and of themselves, and they're really community-based, and really you use a lot of what you do for the greater good. I think that's super, super, it's amazing. In 100 years or in 200 years, when people can look back at this time, what do you think that they'll say?
On me particular, or just this time in Butte?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we are on a cusp of change in Butte right now, and I really hope that it continues to go the way that I've been seeing, where we're getting a lot of, this is not the best, but people that are priced out of adjacent communities that are middle class and younger that are moving here. I really love seeing that. Like a lot of my new friends are from Missoula. I have tons of new friends that have moved from Missoula. So I feel like, they're great, like super like-minded and just artistic people and community forward people. I really hope that the changes that we see in Butte fall into a time of history that we can look back to and say, the depressive state of this town, started to change in like this like core of community growth. Because Butte is so insular, and so many people, it's hard to, people don't feel accepted here.
Right.
There's like a 2-year shelf life with a lot of people that move to Butte. Have you guys noticed this?
Yeah, totally.
Like 2 years, like people last like 2 years and they're like, they can't handle the lack of restaurants, or they don't feel like they found their niche. And there's a lot of, I don't know, like, I don't want to say clique. That's not like the right, there's just a lot of different types of communities. I'm rambling, but the point being is that I think we're on a cusp of changing into deeper community growth and expansion that isn't so Butte-centric, meaning generational. Butte generational. Like we're getting people from other parts of Montana that don't see Butte as the black heart of Montana like we once were, which I think that's so vital to our growth, is that Montana starts to like Butte.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Montana, and nobody that I grew up with liked Butte.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean,
You drive through it as quick as you can.
well, when we would play them in sports, we used to chant like dirty water. Like it was awful. I mean, whatever, you're teenagers, you're terrible. But it was like the adults didn't like it either. It was like Butte was this like black mark on the state, and it was old and dirty, and the people were mean. And it's like, well, the people are mean because they had to be mean, and because they were like, they went through it. It wasn't that long ago, and the people that live here are generational. So like they remember what it was like.
Yeah.
You know, when big money and big business came in and ruined
Right.
like communities.
Right.
You know, and I think that the kind of people that are starting to move here are the right people.
I agree.
And it's so cool to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely not like who's moving to Bozeman and Missoula. And I don't want to say no one from out of state can move to Montana. You know, I don't want to have this like major exclusion vibe.
No.
Because I was so burned by my old communities because of the massive change in them. And I moved to Butte partially thinking nothing will ever change here. But that's never true, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to change slower here.
Totally.
At a slower pace.
Which is so much more, it's like in the long run, that's important that it changes slowly, right?
well, it's more sustainable.
Exactly.
For the whole
It's
community.
more palatable, I think,
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Well, for the people that are generational here, if it changes slowly, it's way easier to wrap your mind around. And then the people that move here because of the things we love about it now, it's not going to change in 2 years, you know, all of a sudden. Like, I mean, Ben and I lived in Bozeman, and from the time I went to college there to the time we moved away, it was like not the same place.
Totally.
Like aggressively not the same place. And that's like, we're not on that pace here.
No. And thank God for the pit because it'll always keep big money out of here.
Yep.
It's not going anywhere.
No one wants to, you don't want to be a millionaire and shop only at Safeway and Walmart and
No.
look at the pit.
I got a lot of love for the pit, you know?
It's true.
It's true, and I've got a lot of love for the pit.
Yeah. Well, we're special because we live above the pit.
I know.
We don't ever even look at the pit up
No,
here.
no, but you know what? Sometimes if I'm driving home from Walmart and the sun's hitting it just right,
You're
it's
like,
like,
look at those colors,
look
man.
at those colors. It's a unique geological thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's obviously terrible and the open pit and it like is a lot of bad, but like it happened. I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it. Might as well appreciate what we can.
Yeah. My husband's digging in that thing every day.
Yeah. He's going full Butte. He has gone full Butte.
He's full Butte.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also started a metal band, so
Full Butte.
Oh, I couldn't
Full
get more beauty.
Yeah.
Butte.
Good job.
Yeah, we got to get Ben in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll put him on the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't think that I can talk to you on behalf of the entire community, but I will. And on behalf of everyone, thanks for everything you do. You really are great and creative, and you mean well. Everything is well intended. You're super talented enough to pull all of it off.
Thank you.
So please keep doing what you're doing.
I will. I have no plans in slowing down.
And for people who aren't familiar with your work or how to find you, how can they find what you're up to?
You can find my music at christyhays.com. You can find my nonprofit at dearbutte.org. If you're a writer or a musician and you want to get away, go to dearbutte.org.
Or if you just want to listen to some good tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing lots of cool stuff.
Thanks, guys.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being
Thanks for
our first
having me.
our first guest.
I hope I
guinea
didn't
pig.
ramble too much.
No, it's
perfect.
perfect. You crushed it.
Okay.
If anything,
This is
we
great.
have to cut down on ourselves, but
Yeah,
we're fine.
well, okay. No, you crushed it.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
good.
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Of All the Places podcast. We're produced by Morris Mountain Studios in partnership with 5518 Designs. Our theme music is by Desperate Electric. We hope to see you soon. Thanks so much, and be well out there.
Be well and be wise.
There it is.
Of all the